Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome back to Wicca 303. Today's class is going to focus upon witchy gardening. Gardens are an excellent opportunity for us to wield magic. I mean, the energy is already inherently there in the soil and the plants, and it seems like quite a waste not to give that energy purpose and direction. And the structure of the garden and the plants that you choose, it can really be an ode to your path and can involve symbolism. And today we're going to be getting into all of that. So, garden plans. I have found that a little structure and organization goes a very long way, and having a garden plan makes it easier to weave any kind of desired symbolism into the garden itself. And of course, this is also an opportunity to plan ahead for the needs of the plants, soil type, water needs, sunlight, all that stuff. And you can also take color combinations into account. And I would recommend keeping a garden journal to refer to so that you can learn from your past experiences and also have a record of what has thrived in your garden's conditions and what doesn't. And for our first garden plan, I see you have this nice spirally effect. It's from druidgarden.wordpress.com via Pinterest. And it has just this little arrangement about how to make this customary druid spiral and work in all kinds of lovely plants around them and just make, something a little bit special. So here's some other garden plants. We're going to be getting into all kinds of them today. This is less about the plants themselves and more about the how can you use the structure of the garden itself to reference your path. And so one of the things I came up with was what I'm calling the 4 seasons compass. What you do is you create a circle, you have it aligned and marked with the cardinal directions, just as you see, kind of makes this little bullseye or solar cross. You have an outer ring and then you have an inner ring that is divided into 4 sections. Now, the outer ring can actually be, a pathway or pavers or whatever else you want to do with that. And the inner ring, that's where you really focus in on your plants. So at the cardinal point, you might place a representation of each associated element. You can actually find things that would serve the purpose at a lot of different gardening stores. In the north, you might have a gnome. In the east, a little fairy. The south, you could have a little dragon statue. And at the west, you could have a mermaid or an undine or something like that. And I have found most of those things available at Walmart and Lowe's, Home Depot, that are just there. They're not too hideously cost. They don't cost that much, really. And so if you're planning this out, you can budget accordingly. And also, you could look online to see if you might be able to find better prices, although they might not make up for it once you take shipping costs into account. But in any case, these things are available to us, and they can be representations of these 4 quarters that we know what they mean without necessarily screaming to all your neighbors, "I'm a pagan and a witch," unless you want to scream that, of course. And then once you have these different quarter sections, you can have all spring bloomers in the spring section, and the same with summer for the summer and autumn for the autumn, and some nice evergreens for the winter section. And so that each time of year has its time to really shine and thrive. And it's also, this can be very instructive for you, saying, okay, what really blooms where I live. And so this might, over time, cause you to have to make a little bit of adjustments in your plantings, because some things, they might say they're a spring bloomer, but for you, it's closer to summer. So you can make adjustments depending on where you live, but it's just a nice representation, and it can help keep you in that flow of the year. Next, just for kicks, you could do a pentacle herb garden. You create a circle with some edging, and then you do create a pentagram within that circle, maybe with some bricks or some stone pavers, or you could plant some low-growing and easily clipped evergreens in that circle, and then, have them planted in the pentagram pattern, and that will create sections. And each section could be a different variety of herbs or plants, or you could do a pattern if you prefer. Maybe on these little broader triangles, you could have all one particular herb, and then in the smaller triangles, a different kind, and then at the very center, you could have a third kind. You have a lot of different options for this idea. It's just depending on what you want to do. Then you might do, just as an idea, a triple moon garden. You could create this shape, and really to emphasize the triple moon symbol, you could actually use berms where you build up the soil and you make them to where they have a lot of dimension, and then you can plant up the berms for more dramatic effect. And you could have lunar plants that are either associated with the moon or that they tend to be night bloomers. Or for this, you might try a moonflower vine, datura, mock orange, jasmine, tuberose, Dutchman's pipe cactus. A lot of these plants are actually kind of whites or lighter colors, so that just kind of tend to add to the effect of this lunar effect. And of course, it would all honor the goddess. And a lot of these plants that are night bloomers, they're known for their very pleasing scent. So if that's something that's interested to you, this is an idea that you might consider trying in your own garden. Another option for patterns and shape or Celtic knots and spirals. You can use these templates or find others, plant the plants in these flowers, or lay walkways in the planters, and then have the actual plants in amongst the gaps of these or along the edges. And if you feel really ambitious, you might even create a labyrinth or a maze and a spiritually significant pattern to you, and just have a lot of fun with that. It depends upon how much space you have to work with, how patient you are to do this, and of course, what you can afford in your budget. But this is an idea. If you want to create a sacred grove and you have the space for it, that is absolutely an option for you. These could be trees that are significant to you in your path, or particularly if you're drawn towards the Celtic tree calendar, you might plant these various trees all in their turn, to where they have these little sections. You could have pathways throughout it. If you want to have multiple specimens of each individual species. And then at the center, you might choose to make that where you create a sacred circle. Maybe you mark it with some stone pavers and have that be at the center of everything, where you have your rituals and everything else. It could be really cool. This is an option that's very much available to you. It just depends upon, again, do you have the space? Do you have the money? But even if it's a longer term dream, maybe, this year you get this one particular tree and you plant it and that's what you nurture. Okay, fine. If you want to make this happen, you can, and as long as you're willing to work at it over the long term, you can make it happen. And then this goes into that thing I've had a bee in my bonnet about. Let's create our own sacred places. Let's start saying we have an overtly pagan space here. And especially if this is a space that you can open up and share with other people who share your path. And this can be kind of a nexus point for you to have rituals together, do celebrations together. I think that's taking a good step forward, just for pagan community in general. Then you might do a yin yang garden. You could create a bed, in this nice circle, have it divided like a yin yang symbol. You could, maybe mark out the circle with bricks or pavers of some kind, and then that boundary in between them, that could be another one. So where you could actually have a footpath in between them. And that could also be very helpful for actually tending the garden. And then you put plants, with that have more receptive energy in the yin areas, including that little dot inside the yang. Make sure you have those, spaced out. And then plants with projective energy in the yang areas in that same pattern. And then that dividing curve, again, that could be a walkway. You might have a little meditation spot at the midpoint, so you can be in the midst of this yin and yang energies, that projective and receptive, that masculine and feminine. And this could be a great meditation spot for you, especially if you're working on balancing your personal energies in this way, or for rituals at the equinoxes when everything is, very evened out energy wise. This could be something if you're interested in balance, and that's something that you're really needing to focus on. Or if it's something that you've really struggled with, this could be a means for you to work on it and create an environment that's suitable for you working on it. Then, of course, fairy rings, fairy gardens. This is something you could very much do if you have the space for it. Have a little spot for the fae to frolic in your garden. Plant it up with plants that are particularly associated with the fae, and maybe some miniature plants that might be a little bit more to scale. You can build houses for them, or little fairy doors if you want to. And this can be done with natural and found materials. You can be very frugal as long as you're willing to put in the time and the effort. And maybe you could build it within a ring, and then have a spot in it for you to visit. And of course, don't forget to add crystals for protection, not only your own protection, but for the protection of the Fae. Create this oasis for them where they're welcome and where they can do what they do, but where they have a little bit more protection from perhaps anything that's unfriendly to them. And also, so you have a little bit of protection in case they get a little bit too mischievous. So, lots of ideas I took you from, and I will leave you with this picture of that rather exquisite looking pathway. You could even make your walkways really artistic and really symbolic of your pagan faith if you choose to. You know, you are limited by your imagination and the amount of time you're willing to put into this. I would say those are really greater boundaries than even budgetary concerns, because if you work on something over time, you can overcome budgeting difficulties because you're not doing all at once, you're doing it piecemeal. Um, so yeah, try it out and just kind of think about the things that are important to you, especially symbols or plants that you feel really drawn to, or plants that you think could be very helpful to you, and see if you can make it work in your garden. You know, a lot of times, you know, we have all of this knowledge, and all it takes is just someone bringing up the possibility. Say, hey, you can connect this dot, and you could use this information in this way, for us to realize, oh, I can. And then you're off and rolling. So for your homework for May 10th to May 16th, number one, brainstorm. Get creative on how to make a witchy garden or how to enhance the one that you already have. Number two, plot out your absolute insane, no holds barred dream witchy garden. Because again, we don't know if our wildest dreams will ever come into full fruition. However, if we have a dream and it's really articulated and opportunities present themselves, we are more likely to execute that and get closer to our original vision than we would otherwise if we didn't really have it well defined. And then three, find a spot in your garden or an outdoor space, if possible, to honor the god and the goddess, and just make that one of the places that you frequent. And that will do it for today's class. Next week, we're going to be talking about legacy. And because we are carriers of a legacy, we are creators of our own legacy. So I hope you'll be back for that discussion. In the meantime, about this class, comments, questions, concerns, complaints, leave them for me in the comments section below, or email me at brigantiablackbird@protonmail.com, and we can get into it there. And yeah, enjoy. Happy gardening, happy planning. I'm very curious to see how people react to this one, because I think this could be a lot of fun. But that's where I'll leave it with you guys today. Have a good one. I'll see you next time. Bye.